but you have to be proactive to get seen. You have to accept every challenge. So if somebody asks you to participate, to go do some charity thing or something slightly outside your comfort zone, always volunteer, always say yes at least once.
Welcome to Her Story to the Top.
I'm Yana Blackwelder, and I'm co-founder of C-Suite Readiness.
My name is Helen Baseman, and I'm a co-founder of C-Suite Readiness.
In this podcast, we will bring you the stories of those women who've made it to the C-suite and became successful founders. No fluff, no pretense, just real stories and real insight, what it took to make it to the top.
Welcome to the podcast, Her Story to the Top. And I'm very excited to have you here today because, as you know, this is a podcast really that highlights women's journeys and their achievements. And I'm really hoping that this podcast will be a source of inspiration and empowerment for women who want to achieve in business. And, I could not think of a better candidate to interview as my first interviewee is yourself, Florina Shutin. And I just would like to say a couple of words. Really a trailblazer in financial services industry. She's been named on the Forbes list of best women advisors, wealth advisors, and best advisors for the past few years. So very, very impressive achievements. And of course, she's been not only the top woman in financial services. She also been managing, her big family, her daughter's admission to top university in the US, her son's sport career, and of course, loving relationship with your husband. So welcome. And I'm happy to have you. And and if you could, I just want us to start with you just telling us about your journey to where you are today and where did you come from?
First, thank you so much. I'm very excited to be part of this project. As you said, I'm a wealth manager, financial advisor, portfolio manager. I was supposed to be a doctor. When I showed up at university, I realized, one, it wasn't for me. And I learned very quickly that the life in finance can be very lucrative, can give you a lot of freedom, and it can lead you to very rapid success, or at least that's what I saw as a young 18-year-old. So I quickly changed my major to economics, and I pursued that career. The moment really that inspired me to be an advisor was the moment that I realized that there was no ceiling in wealth management. So you determine how much you make. You determine the growth within your own career. The harder you work in this career, the luckier you get. And that's very different, I think, from most careers. Yeah. So for me, at a very young age, it was important for me to have control over how much money I make and the levels of success that I can achieve on my own.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounds like there's a huge entrepreneurial component here, right? And kind of empowerment and freedom, like you said, which is pretty incredible, right? And in the industry that is lucrative, but also very male dominated. So I wonder, as you looking back, at your years, what were the pivotal moments in your career or personal growth as you've been, you made this decision, I'm going for it, I love what I'm seeing, and I'm ambitious. So as you look back, what were the pivotal moments?
I realized that I really wanted to grow, and I really just did not know how to grow further. And when I went to my manager at the time and I said, I need to grow, I'd like a coach. And my manager said, you know everything there is to know. And I'm like, it's not possible to know everything I need to know in my 30s and at this stage of my career. So I spoke to other companies that were supportive and offered me coaching and offered me a path to kind of open my eyes. Because as I said to my previous manager, it said, I know a lot, but I don't know what I don't know. And I need somebody to open my eyes and show me how to get to the next level, to get to the next point. And aligning myself with people and a team that wanted to support my growth and were willing to lift me up and wanted to lift me up and actually were happy to see me rise and provided the infrastructure. That is when my business really started to take off and double and triple in a very rapid period of time.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. And as you know, right, I work as an executive coach, and I'm wondering when you said, when you finally made that decision to invest in yourself, to learn what is there else to learn. It's like we don't know what we don't know, right? And you clearly, very courageously entered that territory, and that paid off. I wonder, as far as coaching aha moment, what was for you during the actual coaching? What made the shift?
So I'm a fiduciary, right? I charge a fee for my business, for the work that I do. You need to know what you're worth. You need to know what your time is worth. And
Mm,
so at the time when I was working with a coach, I had a number of clients that were maybe difficult clients, maybe small clients, maybe demanding clients, maybe any number of reasons. Maybe we just weren't seeing eye to eye. And my coach at the time basically made me separate company, which was a very, very difficult thing to do. And he basically said, you need to let these people go so that if you let go of the negative, you create the space for the positive. So that's in terms of the people that I work with.
yeah.
And that actually, that was a sentiment that I decided from that moment going forward, that I will only work with people that I like. And so my first great achievement was letting go of, I think it was like a $12 million client. It was a pretty substantial client, which at the time seemed like, how could I ever let go of a client that large? But the mental anguish that client was causing me the days that I would speak with her would basically destroy my day. And so it was a godsend. So I let her go. I transitioned them to other people on my team, and that opened up a lot more space and positive energy to create. And my head literally spun how quickly I replenished those assets and how quickly my business grew after that. So that was a very interesting moment, that sometimes you actually have to say no. And sometimes you have to part company. And that was a big, because, in this business, I think in any business, as you're trying to build, you never want to say no to business, right? You never want to say no to anyone. And so you accumulate. And then you realize, like, either you don't have the manpower, enough time in the day. And so if you can really identify who you want to work with, what that kind of magic number is for you. And I go through this exercise every year as well. So basically that time with the coach taught me how to set some boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and how to build going forward as well.
Yeah.
And of course,
Well,
it took time.
well, definitely,
Still taking
right?
time.
It's a process. And what I'm hearing from you, right? So you learn about boundaries, personal boundaries, professional boundaries, what to focus on, what to prioritize. What does it mean to have a productive relationship in the work context, right? What is it doing for
Mm-hmm.
you? Putting your energy into more positives versus the drainage, and so on. So this is like very valuable approach, which actually, can be applied in any business, right? Really separate. And I think women often have challenge separating themselves from the role that they play, right? They so relationship oriented typically that they get ingrained into relationship dynamics versus stepping out of it and really looking at it as a business opportunity or loss and moving forward, as a result. What I wonder about is, were there any times when you felt like giving up? Were there obstacles that were really challenging for you, and how did you overcome them?
One of the reasons I chose this business is because I never, ever wanted anyone to control me with money. I wanted to have full control of my financial life. I saw this business as a way of giving me control, for myself, of me to dictate how much I make, how much money I spend, how much, all of that. Anyway, so, and then we hit the late 90s where the technology boom and bubble started. And I was fortunate enough to meet some hedge fund people, and I landed some very large clients. And I started making crazy amounts of money for my age. And then I switched firms in the height of that. And I was like the raw poster child of young success of that time, I think. And then the tech bubble burst as the market started to collapse, and as I started to make more and more money with institutions. I spent more energy on the institutions, less time on the individuals. The market started to tank. The individuals weren't happy. The hedge fund not so well. And all of a sudden, my firm basically made me fire the very clients that were making me the most money. I mean, I had to give away these clients. I had no choice. And so I was left with a very tiny little book of assets. And it was devastating. And right around that time, I met my husband and decided to get married. And so basically, I was at a very high point in my family life and a very low point in my career. So no one knew it. And my business sank so badly that in my head, my only thing that I said was like, please don't put me in a cubicle. Just don't put me in a cubicle. Don't because in this business, it's all about what you do today. So you stop producing, you lose your stature. I was offered an opportunity to go to a tiny branch. And in that tiny branch, they only had cubicles. So my worst nightmare came true. So I took the job. I went down there. I sat in the cubicle in this tiny office with 8 advisors. And I went to my manager and I said, you know what? I think this is it. I'm done. Like I don't know how I'm going to rebuild myself. And he said, no problem. Just pay us back the money that you still owe us. And then I was like, no, I don't think so. So then I decided, you know what? I'm here. Why don't I just see how this plays out? Because I'm going to have to bide my time anyway. So why don't I just stay here? And it was probably the single most devastating and best thing that ever happened to me, because sitting in that cubicle surrounded by 8 actually pretty brilliant men, I was the only woman, listening to them talk, absorbing their knowledge, and at the same time having access and always raising my hand. So anytime somebody, typically in this business, you're not given clients, but in that office, there were introductions. And I was always the first to raise my hand and say, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. And before I knew it, my business was back. And so while I had intended to just stick it out, have a couple kids and leave, I rebuilt my business in 2 years. It was crazy. I would have never imagined. So from like the worst, darkest moment came the best, and 2 kids. So all at the same time.
Wow. I love it, right? And there is so much learning in that, what you just described, right? The ability to stick it out, to listen, to suck in, knowledge of other people around you, to raise your hand, even when you really don't feel like doing it, be physically uncomfortable, right? And really feeling, okay, this is the lowest of the low, which is in reality, right, was just this pivotal moment to take you to the next top, to the next summit, which is this is insane. But yeah, looking back, it clearly everything worked out. So what advice you would give
very well, yes.
Right, to women, to others who might be listening to our interview? How would you suggest to them to deal with, setbacks, potentially business failures, and to move forward? What would you suggest? What would you advise?
Well, I would say always surround yourself with people that are a little bit smarter than you. I'm sure that's nothing new, but that is absolutely, and they have to be positive people. I think in my experience, you really gain much more by being surrounded by intelligent, positive people that excel in their space, whatever space that is, whatever you want to be, whoever you see achieving and doing what you want to do, surround yourself and find yourself in the middle of those people. If you see the people by the water cooler complaining or constantly nagging or constantly finding fault with whatever the company's doing, walk away. So that's number one. And the raise your hand, that is extremely important. Always volunteer. There's opportunities to get noticed within the firm. There's opportunities to engage and kind of be seen, but you have to be proactive to get seen. You have to you have to accept every challenge. So if somebody asks you to participate, to go do some charity thing or do something, again, something slightly outside your comfort zone, always volunteer, always say yes at least once. And if you don't like the experience, you don't have to repeat it, but try it at least once so that you know you've given it a shot. I think that is the most important. And continue the learning. Always, always, always elevate. Always gain whatever new knowledge comes into the industry. Learn, learn, learn.
Yeah,
I think that's
wow.
extremely
That's
important.
that's brilliant. It's very inspirational. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, wow, those are really, really important points. The learning, the community, the positive attitude, right? Being humble enough, what I'm hearing from you is to see, okay, this person is excelling. I want to learn from that person, right? Just not having this huge ego, but actually having this very purposeful, very thoughtful, right? Once again, kind of its approach of humility, which I really love, and
Mhm.
curiosity, right? Like how to do it and be brave, right? Because clearly when you raise your hand, sometimes, sometimes you fail, right? You don't do it as eloquent as you want, but
Often,
right, but
yes.
that's the only way, that's the only way. So that's a big deal. And women, women psychologically tend to be perfectionists. They like, I'm
Right.
gonna do it if I can really do it well, otherwise I'm not gonna touch it. And that's where the challenge comes in, because you can only learn through doing, right? So
Mhm.
it's an interesting dance here. So I know you mentioned a couple of times you went back to, and I created a family and had kids. And, we talked a lot about your career now and really your learnings and your experiences, both highs and lows. How did you balance it all, right? With having this amazing family, raising those amazing kids, and I'm fortunate to know them. What, again, if you could reflect on it from the perspective of giving advice to somebody who's potentially struggling or think they will struggle, I can either have a family or I can have a fulfilling career. What would you say here?
Mhm. So I'm going to answer that in 2 seconds, but I wanted to say one more thing about raising your hand. So working in a very male dominated field, I'm generally, 10%, 15% max. And I learned a lot from my male counterparts because you said it exactly. Women need to be perfectionists to try something. Men, they don't care. They think they know everything if they know half the material, and they'll apply for the job that they're half qualified for versus. And in meetings, they will speak and they will talk over you, and they will, talk over each other, and they have no problem speaking and really putting forth their voice. They want to be heard. Women shy away, and it took years for me, I think, to have my voice heard. And then half the time, I think one of the biggest problems too with probably women, myself, I definitely do this all the time, is you think something, you want to say it, and they're like, no, that doesn't sound intelligent, or that doesn't sound, and then the guy next to you says the exact same thing. And you're like, oh, that's so silly. So, you know, I learned later on to always say something in a meeting, whether, just force myself to speak. And then now it comes naturally, so I probably speak too much. But that was what I noticed. Men will talk, 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 and women just sit quietly and be talked over. And we need to interject more, and we need to be part of the conversation. And I
Yeah.
think that is so important. So that was a big lesson for me.
I love
Anyway,
it. Oh,
I
thank you.
just wanted
No,
to
I'm,
say
I'm
that.
glad. I'm glad you added it, right? I mean, this nugget because it is so true. And for some reason, you only learn it with age, right? And some people don't. But you like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm just gonna say it. There's never right moment or the most intelligent phrase, but
Mhm.
sometimes there's just a conversation, right? And you
Right.
need to be part of it, being at the table. And I think this is what we're doing right now, right? We having our voices heard, really,
Mhm.
right? And we're like, oh, can we, should we? But no, actually, we should. Right?
No,
So,
absolutely. It's
so
extremely
that's exactly
important.
what's happening as we speak. And it's like, oh, what if I make a mistake? What if, but well, so what? Next time you do better. And you'll
Exactly.
right? And you'll share less or more, but the fact is doing. It's not, yeah. overanalyzing and paralyzing. So let's go back to balancing
For
and
the
giving
family.
women
Yeah.
advice who like really scared that they cannot balance career and fulfilling family. What would you say
Right.
to?
So, okay. So I'm very fortunate in my business because I do kind of set my own schedule. So if I need to run out and go to a soccer game at 3:30 in the afternoon, I can. If I need to take my kid to the doctor, I can. So I would really encourage women to create entrepreneurial jobs for themselves where they can create the freedom and space within their workday. That's not to say that I don't work 24/7 because I do. I answer emails at all hours. I'm working on the weekends. You work either early in the morning or late at night. But what you need to do is you need to figure out what's most important. What is the most important time to spend with your family? Our children love having families dinners together. And so we prioritize that. So you prioritize, there are certain days that you will stay home and be home with your family, or you will have dinner together. I started driving my son to school in the morning because, it's a really good time to have a chat. So you find pockets of time to spend one-on-one quality time with them. And if you know something is very important to them, make every effort to be there. Carve out pockets of time and just be there for the most important moments. Just make it happen, however you have to do.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I don't think there's any magic answer. I think the greatest thing you can offer your children is your time.
that's true. Like being there, right? In the highs and lows, that's what counts.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
So this is all good stuff. So now as we kind of come into an end, of our time together, I want to finish it with two questions. One is kind of advice related, and this one is like, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received? Okay. And the second question is you thinking the answer to the first one would be if you could have a dinner with any woman in history, who would it be and why?
Well, the first one I think is very easy. She came to me like I think when she came to me like instantly, like Golda Meir, the first woman president of Israel. I mean, that woman was a tough cookie. She dealt with some very, very serious. She's a badass woman, and I would love to hear how she maintained her cool, her composure, and women. I think as women, we take everything take things very or can take things very personally, and yeah, I would just love to hear what goes in how that woman operates and is able to sleep at night and not cry herself to sleep every night. Like, I mean, she was amazing. I have the greatest admiration for her. So that I would love to dig deep into her brain and soul and
Yeah. And just finish with the best advice you've ever received. So maybe we'll pass that to our listeners as well.
I mean, it's so trite and simple, and I still have hard time with it because, don't take things so personally and, just let it go. Just, move on. I find it so difficult to do, but that is absolutely what you have to do. You have to just keep looking forward. You can't like dwell on the past, and you can't because the more you replay the story, you don't bring the past into your present. So
Yeah.
just look
Well,
forward and move on.
now I'm going to change the rulings and actually ask you one more question because you said about the future. So what is your goals for the future, or at least one? What is the next for you?
What is the next? Well, I've started, so like you, empowering women and young young women, financial literacy, all that. So like right now, I'm a sponsor of Baruch with Barron's and Dow Jones. So I'm like their voice. So that's exciting. I'm grow like uh, it's like little baby steps. So my team is growing. Yes, I would love to be pretty high. I've achieved some pretty high goals at work. I would like to, I've doubled my client assets and I guess my own production, whatever, in the last twice in the last I think 6 years. I'd love to double and continue doubling, every 3 to 4 years to become even bigger. I don't I don't know. But for my kids, for me, my daughter's in a great school. My son wants to be at Stanford playing soccer. I'd love to get him there. Actually, if we can do that, if we can get my son into Stanford playing soccer, that would be a massive accomplishment. It'll be his, not mine. But if I can support him in that and open some doors, or I don't know how I would open doors, but the doors I can open for many women, the soccer in Stanford is not my open door.
Not yet. Not yet, right?
Not yet. But
remember,
at the moment,
remember, words create worlds. So now you're putting it out in the universe.
It's out there. So whoever wants to recruit my son,
it's out there. It's going to find you. Okay,
right.
Great.
Actually, wait, one last thing.
Yeah.
I would love. So my daughter does seem to want to go into finance. At the moment, she has zero interest to join my business. It would make me so happy. She's definitely going into finance, probably on the institutional side. But if she were to come in and take over my business, because I feel very connected to it, and it would be amazing if she was kind of the predecessor. So
yeah, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. She might change her mind
We'll see.
after this interview and the other ones, right? When she listens, she's like, "Wow, I didn't realize
I didn't realize
this
exactly.
is really glamorous and impactful." So thank you so much. It's been like really brilliant hour. It just flew by for me, at least. Yeah.
Me as well. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to Her Story to the Top, where we bring you real stories, real conversations with real female leaders who have claimed their seat at the C-suite table. We hope these stories and our conversations will inspire you to take the next leap and to grow in your professional journey. You can follow us at C-Suite Readiness on Instagram, and please check out C-SuiteReadiness.com for more resources. Also, you can check our YouTube channel at C-Suite Readiness.